How's it going, guys? I thought I'd start off this video review just doing a hike in London, Ontario, which is known as the Forest City actually. And it's actually sweltering right now. It's over 30 degrees Celsius with high humidity. But I'm wearing my Christopher Ward Trident Pro. And this is actually one of their earlier renditions of this watch from like 2015, I believe. They have a pretty big following though, and some of their new Trident series that came out recently look really, really good. So I'm going to flip perspectives quickly, and I'll actually show you this watch up close in my studio. Cheers, guys. All right, guys, let's talk about the Christopher Ward C60 Trident Pro automatic watch. Now, you should note that Christopher Ward also sells quartz variations of this same timepiece. So, if that's more your thing, if you want something low maintenance and grab and go, you can pick up their quartz version of this watch at a lower price. But this is the 43 millimeter version of this timepiece with the old Christopher Ward logo at the 12 o'clock here. Let's look at dimensions. So again, 43 millimeter case. From lug tip to lug tip here, you're looking at about 50 millimeters wingspan. Case thickness is 12.5 millimeters, which is actually pretty good for a dive watch. And then the lug gap here, this opening for your bracelet, is 22 millimeters, with the bracelet tapering down nicely to 18 millimeters and then back to 20 at the clasp. So overall, I think these dimensions are very well suited for a dive watch, and it'll please a large number of different wrist sizes. So I think the star of this watch is this black wave dial. This dial is protected by a sapphire crystal. I'm not aware if they do any anti-reflective coating on this crystal because I'm getting a fair bit of reflections under my studio lights here, so I apologize for that. But it's actually a kind of a subtle wave pattern. On certain lights you can really see it, and I really enjoy it. It plays with the light a little. But then angles like this, it's like a matte black finish almost. So it's subtle, and I kind of appreciate that. You do get, again, the old Christopher Ward writing near the 12 o'clock. Closer to 6 is the Trident Pro designation with 300 meters water resistant, and it says it's automatic. Now, in addition to this, you're getting a date aperture that's offset near the 4 o'clock. And you can see it's framed by the same white silver surrounds that are used on the applied indices for the hour markings. I do appreciate that they use some like rectangle indices at the 12, 3, 6, and 9 position, and then you do have the white circular surrounds for the remaining of a dial. And then you can see near the very bottom here, let me see if I can zoom in, it does say Swiss made. Yeah, so very handsome timepiece. I do and also really enjoy the handset here. So if this handset, what you're getting, it's almost like a spade style hour hand, and then you get a broadsword minute hand. And they're partially skeletonized too, which is kind of a neat feature that they did. And then with the second hand, I really enjoy it too. You're getting a red accented tip that extends all the way to the minute markings. And then the counterbalance is a very prominent trident, which is well suited for the name of this watch. Let's talk about the bezel. So the bezel, I believe it's an aluminum insert. It is a coin edge style bezel that's gnarled really well. 120 click unidirectional. The action is a little audible, but it's easy enough to turn while being positive and satisfying. And move it over there. I don't really think there's much backplay. The alignment on the bezel is pretty good too, so there's no alignment or QC issues there. You do have a luminous pearl at the 12 o'clock position. And I'm going to throw up a lume shot so you guys can see. It's really interesting that they went with a dual color lume application. So the handset and the lume pearl on the bezel does appear green, and it's quite intense. And then you have more of a subdued blue, which is probably like a BGW9 application on the hour indices. So it's, even though I do appreciate they used a dual lume application, it's definitely stronger on the handset and bezel than it is on the hour markings. and the lume will fade pretty quickly. Now, all that said, because you do have a contrasting white handset and dial markings on a black dial, low light visibility remains pretty strong. Okay, let me flip it to the side. We can talk a little about the finishing and the crown. You can see again on the crown you have the CW logo that's deeply engraved into the crown itself. It's gnarled fairly well and it's flanked by some prominent crown guards. Now, operating the crown will operate the movement. I couldn't get the specific details of the movement on their website, but it's either going to be the ETA 2824-2 or like the Sellita clone, the SW 200-1. And in either case, if you unscrew the crown, you can manually wind this movement. So, like now. And then pulling it out to the first position is your quick date set function. And then if I pull it all the way out, you can hack this movement too, right? And then you can just quickly adjust your time however you like. And then popping the crown in, it's fairly easy to rethread. And again, with this movement, you get a 4 hertz beat frequency, about a 40-hour power reserve. And the accuracy is pretty good. You can expect plus or minus 10 seconds a day with these movements. Although it's interesting because when I purchased this watch, it was secondhand, which you can probably tell by the number of scratches on it. But the owner, at the end of its warranty period, sent it in. It wasn't even a full service, but Christopher Ward, they lubed certain components, and then they also regulated it. So this is super tight tolerances. It's actually about plus 1 second a day right now. So extremely accurate and handsomely finished timepiece right there. So let's talk about the bracelet real quick. Again, oyster style bracelet, high polish on the center links, and then brushing along the outer surfaces here. And then it's a transition back to high polish when you look at the sides of the links. The links themselves use split pins. They're just friction based, so you can just push them out to size as needed. And then at the clasp, you have a few micro adjusts. I wish they put like a 4th micro adjust tool closer to the end of a clasp here. But I do enjoy the clasp in general. I enjoy these type of circular dual push triggers. And then they didn't need to do this too, but on the milled out portion here, they actually they signed with their logo, Christopher Ward London, on the inside of a clasp here, which is a nice feature. Moving on to the case back, solid end links, and then you do have what I believe is some Swiss text, and then you have the embedded Trident logo there, and it does say Swiss made near the bottom. All right, here's a wrist shot for you guys. So you can see, I think this watch wears very well on my just over 7¼ inch wrist. I think that with the factory bracelet, it does plant the watch very nicely. It counterbalances the clasp to the head of the watch, and I think it's a pretty handsome timepiece. Okay, so are there any negative aspects to this watch? Well, again, there's no perfect watch out there, I would say. Some of the minor gripes that I had is, one, the lume. If you're a lume junkie, this won't blow you away. But that said, I appreciate the dual lume application with the BGW9 on the hour markings, and then what I'm going to assume is like C1 Superluminova on the handset and the lume pip. Another minor gripe too is with the bracelet itself. There's a fair bit of like wobble between the links. A little more flexibility than I'd like to see. So I just feel like over time that might cause a little bit of friction between each of the links if you're kind of constantly like moving back and forth like this. But again, the other benefit is with a 22mm lug opening here, you could easily just replace it with an aftermarket bracelet or strap, like I've done in the introduction. I do enjoy wearing it on a rubber strap in the hotter months, especially now that we're in July. So then the other thing to factor in is price. It's hard to get a specific price point in Canadian dollars, but I think these usually go for around 4.99 euros on their website. And again, there are different versions there's updated versions. There's the C60 with 600 meters water resistant, which is more expensive, but a really solid looking timepiece. Now in this price range, I also like to think of like what would be a good comparator. And for what I can think, around that same price point, I would say the Glycine Combat Sub in this particular colorway. It kind of resembles the Christopher Ward, and it's a good alternative. I mean, similar style movement, similar style uh, bezel, more or less. Dimensions are fairly similar, except this definitely has a thinner profile than the Christopher Ward, but same like lug to lug. Similar case diameters. This is actually 42, while the Christopher Ward is 43. But that's just, I want to make you aware of a potential alternative. And if you guys want to maybe see a head-to-head duel on those type of watches in the future, please let me know in the comments. But that about wraps it up, guys. I'd love to hear your feedback, and as always, I'll catch you guys in the next video.